Cardinal Mazarin, chief minister to Louis XIV, said, "The question to ask of a general is not, is he skillful, but is he lucky?" This list of generals highlights the leaders whose victories shaped the history of Europe and subsequently the world, whether it be through genius or luck. So without further ado, from emperors to mad geniuses, here are the most influential generals Europe has ever seen. Number 10, Hannibal Barca. Hannibal at 10? That's outrageous. I know. You're going to be even more upset when I admit that I almost put Hannibal in the honorable mentions. No one can dispute his military genius and esteem amongst his contemporaries. But the fact of the matter is that even with all his cunning and bravery, the kingdom of Carthage fell to the Romans and he fled into a self-imposed exile. What ultimately bumped him to the 10th spot was the realization that his prowess as a commander influenced every general on this list that followed him in history. By that logic, he altered the course of every European battle that followed the Second Punic War. I also just couldn't leave the Lion of Carthage off my list. Number 9. Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, is most famously known for defeating Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The 100 Days Campaign, which was also known as the War of the Seventh Coalition, ended Napoleon's reign in France for good, putting an end to the madman who dominated Europe for decades. This Irish-born general also distinguished himself in the Peninsular War and served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom twice. Number 8. Belisarius. Belisarius was a magister militum, or top-ranking general in the Byzantine military. He was the driving force behind the successful effort to reconquer much of the Western Roman Empire, which had fallen to various Germanic tribes and independent kingdoms. He conquered the Vandal kingdom of North Africa and much of the Gothic kingdoms that held Italy. This included retaking Rome despite being outnumbered 2-1. His victories allowed the Eastern Roman Empire to remain a powerhouse for another nearly 1,000 years. Number 7. Alexander Suvorov. Count Alexander Vasilyevich Suvorov-Rumnitsky, also known as General Forward, the Sword of Russia, and the God of War, was a Russian general who fought and led in too many wars and battles to read off efficiently. But I'll give it a go.
I can recite all
Suvorov's battles
in a quarter of a second.
Suvorov was primarily known for being one of Napoleon's greatest adversaries and the greatest general in Russian history. He was awarded the rank of Generalissimo, the finest honor a general can receive. Beyond his achievements expanding the Russian Empire, he was known to have the deep admiration and respect of the soldiers who followed him. Number 6. Frederick the Great. Old Fritz was the last Hohenzollern monarch to be titled King of Prussia. He was an innovative military genius, an enlightened absolutist, and patron of the arts. His reorganization of the Prussian military command, the conquest of Silesia, and reformed liberal policies turned Prussia from a regional power into a military powerhouse that set the foundation for a unified German state. Under his leadership, it was said that Prussia was not a state which possessed an army, but an army which possessed a state. Despite being the 10th largest state in Europe, it boasted the 3rd largest army, and was certainly the most efficient, effective, and devastating well-oiled machine. Number 5. Gustavus Adolphus. Gustavus the Great was the king of Sweden during the 30 Years' War and is widely known as the father of modern warfare due to his early adoption of combined armed tactics. Gustavus brilliantly combined the use of infantry, cavalry, and artillery to devastating effect, allowing Sweden to become a European great power rivaling the likes of France, Great Britain, and the Russian Empire. He was the foremost defender of Protestantism and greatly contributed to its survival in the face of the Catholic onslaught. Overall, he is remembered for revolutionizing military doctrine and protecting the religious freedom of Protestants. Number 4. Charlemagne. The warrior king Charlemagne was the first monarch to unite Western Europe after the fall of the Romans. He personally led campaigns that expanded his reign across Western, Central, and Iberian Europe. He was crowned Emperor of the Romans on Christmas Day in the year 800, which informally began the Holy Roman Empire, an entity that would persist and dominate the political sphere of Europe for the next 1,000 years, and would only be ended by a certain madman who is yet to appear on this list. Number 3. Julius Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar led the Roman Republic to victory during the Gallic Wars before turning his forces back towards Rome, defeating his political ally turned rival, Pompey, in Caesar's civil war, which allowed himself to assume the title and role of dictator perpetuo. As the undisputed head of the Roman Republic, he had near limitless power, which he used to institute a number of reforms, including transitioning Rome to the Julian calendar, which the Western world still uses today. Caesar's legacy was cut short by an assassination plot conceived by his political rivals. If he were allowed to live the full extent of his life, he'd probably be higher on this list, though top 3 is nothing to scoff at. Number 2. Alexander the Great. Alexander set out from Macedon's capital city of Pella and conquered most of the civilized world unhindered, never to be defeated in battle. The boy king spent most of his life campaigning against the petty kings of Greece and Anatolia, the empire of Persia, and the kingdoms of India. His Hellenic empire was the largest the world had ever seen, spreading Greek culture, language, and religion across the known world. He was the blueprint that the Romans modeled themselves after, which the entire Western world modeled themselves after. He founded over 20 cities with Greek colonists, spreading Hellenistic dominion, which became the foundation for modern Western culture. He did all of this before the age of 30, only to die prematurely 2 years later. Who knows how much more of the world he would have conquered if he lived a full life. I thought about putting the honorable mentions here, but you all know who's coming next. Number 1. Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte, the mad genius, might be the single most brilliant military tactician of all time. He single-handedly brought about a new age in Europe through his campaigns. He is probably the only person in history to have a coalition of nations declare war on him personally, and not the nation he represented. His legacy is littered through the history of nearly every nation represented on this list, and his equals on this list are few to none. His innovative and bold tactics are still studied by militaries across the globe, not to mention his modern legal and administrative practices known as the Napoleonic Code, which are still referenced and used today by nations across the world. His exploits were certainly not for all the benefit of mankind. Many of his decisions were questionable at best and downright heinous at worst, and that's without taking into account the millions that died due to his pervasive wars. There are few figures in history as controversial as the man of destiny, but there are even fewer who shaped the world as we know it today as much as Napoleon. Now for the honorable mentions. And that was my list of generals who shaped Europe and subsequently the world forever. If you'd like to see more of this content, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching. See you next time on Europa Historia.